Check this thing out. It's a little Wiley's Jeep. I've seen these in like the hardware stores, the big box stores like Blaine's or Family Farm and Fun or whatever. And they look so cool. But I had got this dropped off by a customer the other day. And he said he called around. He said no one will work on these things. And the reason why is because they're Chinese. They got that Chinese motor, the same thing that's in everything, like that Chinese quad right there. I'm assuming they just don't want to put their name behind working on something like this and they break again, and they'd rather work on the name brand stuff, which I understand, but that gives me business. But the customer complaint is it's hard to start. He says he can push start it all right, but the electric start's not working well. But looking under the hood here, I can see right away we are going to want to get a new air filter for this. That's not filtering very much. But also, yeah, this cover here is like a crankcase breather on that. So let's put the key in it, try turning it over and see what it sounds like. There's neutral. Backup lights or blinkers maybe. Oh, that must be engine on and off. All right, let's pull choke. That's the horn. That's not a push start. Sounds like it's with the choke on it wanted to. Let's do some starting fluid. See if it's a fuel issue. Easiest thing first. This will be convenient because our air filter's shot. We can shoot some right in there. All right, let's check for spark. Well, I can tell you by the sound, it sounds like we have compression. Spark plug's wet. Smells like starting fluid. We didn't necessarily eliminate the fuel issue, but we were able to introduce fuel. Let's see here. This is when I need a helper. Wish my son was home, he could help me. Let's see if I can reach the key from here, huh? I do see a spark. Just for fun, because I have it, I do have an NGK spark plug. That part number, in case you're wondering, is a CR7HSA, or the torch part number, A7TC. Even though it looked like we have good spark, sometimes that is wrong. Let's try getting this guy in there. Choke out. appears we're not getting enough gas to idle. I'm just on that throttle a little bit. I'm gonna back off of it. Yeah, that idle's too low. Let's see if we can get to that carburetor. Screw on the side here might be our idle screw. Okay, I believe that's a half turn in total. Let's see what that's like. I think that's going the right direction. Let's go another quarter turn in. Yeah. When it does run, that's me pushing the gas in to get it to turn over. And then that screw seems like it's bottomed out. Oh, nope. It was just my hands were stuck. Okay. There's another half turn in. Let's try that. Give it gas. Going to be turned all the way in here in a minute. That's another like half turn in. Well, that carb is going throttling up, throttling down, even when I just made a slight adjustment to that. I do believe possibly that slide is getting stuck. And probably, I mean, judging by the air filter quality, this slide's probably gummed up. Ports are probably gummed up. And being the Chinese motor whisperer, I can guarantee you that this float bowl on this carb is riveted. It is not bolted. So we need to look for a carb. And it looks like there might be a part number right there on top of the carb. Let me do some Googling and see what we can find. Well, I searched that number that I could see on the carb, and it was like a BG, what was it, BG21K26, and that doesn't come up with anything on the old Tinternet. So let's pull this carburetor off. And you're not going to believe it if I told you. I shut the fuel off. It had to shut off there. I think I see the word Japan on the side of this carb. So that would be surprising. Let's get that fuel line out of the way. These are 8 mils holding this on. Bang, 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 bang. Ha! It does say Japan. It's a Japanese carburetor. What are the chances? See what I mean? How that float bowl is riveted in there? It's not bolts holding this up, so you really can't clean this dumb thing. Doesn't look dirty in there. See if we can find any more numbers off of this thing. PZ22. Standard of Japan. KF Standard of Japan. Okay. Was it made in Japan or is it the Standard of Japan? What was that number again? PZ22. Let's. Hey! We did it! I had to loosen that plate to get that to rotate enough to get that choke out of there. Okay. So like I said on these float bowls, whether they're riveted in or they're screwed in and then they cut off the bolt heads, either way, it leaves your legs cut off as far as you wanting to clean this thing, because you can't, to get this bowl off, to get to the jets, it's all got to come through the bottom, and they don't give you that option. So let's see what we can find online, and maybe we can find one that we can actually do take apart. Truly, this was the only adjustment on this quad, whether that has to be the idle adjustment that we were playing with, and we could get it right, but then it would slowly start to idle up, and I don't think that was because the engine was warming up, because I would give it throttle and then it would not throttle back down. So I think we're looking at a new carb, and for 20 bucks, send it. Well, our new carb came in. With a new air filter, which we'll have to modify this guy, because all those, your crankcase pressure, positive pressure goes through here, and I think the crankcase breather goes through here, which is a poor design. That's why this one got completely ripped off. But let's see what came. Fuel filter, which is, we do want to install that. Okay, so this carb has got a finger choke. So, like I said, at the end of the air filter, you got your crankcase breather, and you got your sharp metal glued on the inside of this, but looks like there's a snap ring on there. Looks like they just used caulk to seal that up. Caulk and a dull punch to blow a hole in that. Let's find out what size this is so we can copy that equally crappy design onto our new filter. .25/64. And if you ever use this drill bit to drill this sheet metal, you know what's about to happen here. That looks like they punched it. But alas, I don't have a hole punch like that, so see, we wanted it lower because then the water won't drain into it. I joke. All right, that fits in there pretty good. Now you're probably wondering, Mike, how you gonna get that snap ring on there? Well, I wonder the same thing. Decided to go with JB Quick Weld. Now we gotta be very careful. We don't want to get it in the hole. Obviously, it would defeat the purpose of the engine breathing it all. There. Okay, so while that dries in place, let's work on getting our new carb on and mounted. Okay, so this cutout on the side of this slide for the carb, there's a pin in there that's designated by this guy. That's what that's got to line up with. Okay, I have seen these plastic spacers here between your carb and your intake crack. So make sure you don't go too ham sandwich on these nuts here. Okay, so because there is not a fuel filter in here, and that could have potentially saved our old carburetor, I do want to put one in. Methinks to do that, here's our fuel line coming out of the bottom of the tank. Now there is a direction on these. If you look carefully, there's an arrow there. So it wants the flow this way. Okay, so we got our fuel line with the fuel filter routed on. Also our choke now. Because we have a manual choke, we're just gonna zip tie this along with the throttle line in case they ever want to go back to that. They'll have the option. Okay, before, let's see how our air filter did. Not bad. They ain't gonna go nowhere. Yep. Before we mount that air filter and lose all of our access, there is your carb overflow line right there. I'm gonna get that attached to the bottom of the carb as well. That's your carb bowl overflow there, that's attached now. All right, let's turn our fuel on. You can see our fuel filter fill up. This guy can go on. Let's get him mounted. Okay, so I did reroute the fuel line because I had the fuel line coming around this way, and it was always kinking, so I got it on the other side of our throttle cable here. So air filter's mounted. That's on, all bolted down. Let's fire it up and see how it goes. me show you what we got going on. The only adjustment on these Chinese carbs, at least this one, is this is your idle screw. And when you screw that in, it lifts up that slide and gives it more airflow, therefore more gas as well. That's only to adjust your idle speed. So I have this backed all the way out without it falling out. So that slide should be sitting all the way down, right? The issue is I can't get any adjustment from the idle with this. It just wants to run hot. So that tells me that the jets are not sized right in this carb. Okay, so a new carb showed up. And if this is the correct one, it's by X-Pro. Part number 331-999086 PZ22 carburetor. And this should have the actual choke cable as well, which it does, it looks like. So we shall see if this is the correct carb for this Jeep. A lot of guys, I had posted a short about this slide. Remember this carb that we got originally, I think from Amazon. A lot of guys were saying you can adjust your slide on these, not your slide, but your needle on this, and that would adjust your idle or give you more adjustments. But guys, let's bring this to the bench. I'll show you. Okay, here's that C-clip or that E-clip, whatever you call it. And I know what you guys are talking about. On Honda carbs, on good, legit name brands, there's different notches on this guy that you can put that E-clip to adjust the depth of that needle. But look, there's no other adjustment. There's just that one notch. That's it. That's these Chinese carbs. They're specifically made for the engine that they're slapping it on. And that's why you got to be careful about what one you're ordering, right? They're super cheap, but there's a million different kinds out there, and it's specific for your Chinese engine. That's why it's such a bear to work on these sometimes. But let's go see if this new carb works. All right, new carb is on, all set up, ready to go. Take it for a test drive. Oh. Good morning, Max. How are you, bud? Want to take a ride? What do you think? You like it? Well, there you go, guys. We worked on the carburetor, got it straightened out. Again, the carburetors that come on these things, you can see I did try to drill these out. I'm sure if you had left-handed drill bits at home and you worked hard enough, you could get that out to clean your carb. But ultimately, you still only have your idle screw to mess with the idle. You don't get access to your air mixture screw, which on the carburetor that I bought, now we have all those adjustments to play with and to get it just right. I'm sure you could drill that out. Maybe we could do that. We could take this to the bench, drill that out, and see if there's a screw underneath that Welch cap to make that adjustment. But ultimately, for how much work you would put into this as a stock carb, where you can get a $20 one that has the bolts that you can take out of the bowl and all the adjustments already available, to me, that's the way to go. So thanks for watching. We got it running. See you on the next video.